Rachel was raised in a family where money spoke louder than love. Her parents were wealthy, respected, and obsessed with appearances. Every dinner table conversation revolved around prestige, investments, and which friends carried the most influence. Rachel, however, never fit into that mold. She was passionate about creativity, about building something meaningful with her own hands rather than riding on the wealth of others. To her parents, that made her a disappointment. To them, success meant status, and Rachel wasn't playing by their rules. The breaking point came one night when her father looked her dead in the eye in front of relatives and said, "Rachel, you're not up to the standards of this family." The words cut deeper than any blade. The shame burned her cheeks, her throat tightened, and before she could respond, she was told to leave. With nothing more than a small bag of clothes and a heart that felt like it was breaking apart, she walked out of the house that was supposed to be her safe place, realizing she wasn't just unwanted, she was disowned. Those first months on her own were brutal. She lived in a small, run-down apartment where the pipes rattled at night and the heating barely worked. Her diet often consisted of instant noodles and cheap coffee. She worked double shifts, cleaning during the day and taking late-night jobs to keep the lights on. Some nights, she would curl up under a thin blanket and whisper to herself that maybe her father had been right, maybe she really was a failure. But somewhere deep inside, a small flame of determination kept her going. She refused to let their rejection define her. It wasn't easy, but Rachel poured herself into education and work. She discovered she had a sharp eye for business and technology. Slowly, she started freelancing, then landed a small but promising job in a startup. Nights were spent coding until her eyes blurred, mornings were fueled with strong coffee, and every paycheck meant survival and one small step forward. She made mistakes, fell down often, but she never stayed down. Years of grit and sacrifice began to pay off. Her first breakthrough came when she helped design a product that suddenly took off. Investors noticed, opportunities followed, and within a few years, Rachel was no longer the girl eating ramen in a freezing apartment. She was the woman leading a rising company that newspapers called the next big thing. She had gone from disowned to self-made, and every time she signed a contract or read about her success in the press, she thought back to that night at the dinner table, hearing her father's voice telling her she would never measure up. Time has a way of turning tables. Her parents, once untouchable in their social circles, began to falter. Investments went sour, their businesses started failing, and whispers spread among the same high society friends they had once tried so hard to impress. The perfect family image cracked, and for the first time, her parents were no longer the admired hosts of lavish galas. They were desperate to hold on to whatever influence they had left. Rachel's name, on the other hand, was everywhere. Articles praised her for being a visionary. Magazines called her a symbol of resilience. She wasn't just successful, she had become everything her family swore she could never be. And then came the moment she never saw coming, an invitation to a charity gala, one her family used to dominate, where she was to be honored as a keynote guest. Walking into that hall felt surreal. The chandeliers sparkled, cameras flashed, and people whispered her name with admiration. And then, across the room, she saw them. Her father, older, wearier, and stripped of the arrogance that once radiated from him. Her mother clung to his arm, eyes wide with disbelief as they realized the guest of honor was the daughter they had cast aside. The encounter was tense. Her father forced a smile and muttered, "Rachel, it's been a long time." She held her composure, calm and collected, and simply replied, "Yes." And look how the tables have turned. That single line carried years of pain, struggle, and triumph. For the first time in her life, she held the power, and they knew it. But the true revenge wasn't just that reunion. Soon after, Rachel discovered that her parents' last remaining company was on the brink of collapse. Investors were pulling out, debts were piling high, and the only chance of saving it was finding a strong partner. That partner turned out to be Rachel's firm. Suddenly, the daughter they disowned was the only person who could save them. She had a choice. She could have turned her back and let them crumble. But she wanted more than silence, she wanted acknowledgement. She agreed to the deal, but with one condition: they had to admit, publicly, how wrong they had been to cast her out. Watching her once proud father choke on his pride as he confessed to business partners and former friends that his daughter, the one he rejected, was the very person saving him, was sweeter than any revenge she could have imagined. The moment the contract was signed, Rachel felt something wash over her. It wasn't just triumph, it was freedom. She no longer needed their approval. She had carved her own place in the world, and in doing so, she had forced them to face the truth. she had always been enough. In the end, revenge didn't come in the form of shouting or screaming. It came in quiet, undeniable success. The kind of success that made her father's words echo back on him with shame. The kind of success that turned the daughter they disowned into the woman they had no choice but to respect. And maybe that's the lesson. Sometimes the sweetest justice isn't in tearing someone down, it's in rising so high they have no choice but to look up. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and drop a comment below about the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories where karma does its job in ways no one sees coming. Never underestimate the person you cast aside, because one day, they just might be the one writing your fate.